Hey you guys, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my thoughts on Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare, and I finished this book about like a little under a week ago, I believe, and I'm emotional still to this day. Probably the same kind of flustered and malfunctioning that I was when I finished the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So this is the second time I'm filming this, and I wanted to say I'm really sorry for the video not going up on Saturday. There is some issues with this focusing of my camera, and I should have it fixed come the new year because I bought a cable that should connect my camera to my laptop, so I should be able to see kind of how I look, and hopefully that fixes things, but you know, we'll never know. So the synopsis of this book is that this is the thrilling conclusion to the Dark Artifices series. We get to see kind of the aftermath of the deaths of Robert Lightwood and Olivia Blackthorne as they were killed on the council hall by Annabelle, the loss of the mortal sword, as well as the Parabatai bond and the huge gigantic change that will end up changing kind of the entirety of the Shadowhunter world for the rest of like ever, essentially. So that's kind of the synopsis on this lovely book. And I will cry if I think more about that. So let's just kind of get into the things that I did like and my first thoughts. Also, just a heads up, this video is not going to be spoiler free. This is the final book in the series, so spoilers are kind of not there. I can't not make it spoiler free, so if you have read the book and want to continue on, great. If you haven't read the book, you have been warned, and you can't get mad at me if something spoils it for you. So yeah. So as for my first thoughts on this book, I was really nervous going into this book. I actually had zero plans to pick this up until after the new year. I wanted to go ahead. I was inspired to do my sequel December like TBR thing because of this book, but I had no plans to pick it up until after the new year, just to kind of let the hype die down a bit so I could not be so caught up in it. But when it came out, I got stuck in the current, and I ordered it online and picked it up that same day. Got to drive in the snow for the first time, so that was fun. But essentially, I still read it as soon as I was done with a book that I read. What was the book? Oh yeah, once I was done with Stalking Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco, so I picked that up and had a blast reading this one. Blasted right through it. So yeah, this is the third time I'm filming this kind of segment here, so if I seem a little drawn out and exhausted of saying the same things over and over again, this is because this is the third time. But as for things that I did like, I really did enjoy kind of the plot. Cassie has this wonderful job of making sure that everything kind of weaves in together and that things are thought out and well planned out, as well as kind of her writing in itself gets better and better every time. Not only as a reader do I absolutely adore the fact that her writing gets better, but also as an author, I hope to have that kind of career once I get published. Note how I said when and not if. Character progression here, everyone. But as for other things, we are going to go ahead and jump right into it. Kit and Ty Blackthorne were absolutely heartbreaking. You can tell that Kit doesn't necessarily understand his feelings for Ty at the moment, but all he knows is that he does love him, and Ty grieving with the fact that his twin is now dead. He is kind of stuck in this path of trying to revive her and not realizing that he ends up losing one of the best friends he's ever had. Since, you know, Kit ends up going to live with Jem and Tessa at the end of the book to be with their baby. As well as that big reveal that I believe he is half Fae. Yeah, Kit actually ends up becoming half Fae, which is like something that actually blew me out of the water, because I was like, what do you mean? No, he's a Herondale, but he's also half Fae, and whoo, it's a time reading this book, not gonna lie. Now, as for the older couples that popped up, I wish that we got to see more of Simon and Izzy. I feel like they're always getting shoved to the side at some point in these books, but I wish, since, like, especially from Simon's perspective, we see a lot of his friends from Shadowhunter Academy die off. John dies, Julie dies, so I would have really liked to have seen his reactions to that, or seen a small little snippet of Izzy kind of comforting Simon during this time, as well as vice versa, Simon comforting Izzy since her father had died, was brutally killed actually. But as for that, Malik and Alec, this always happens. Magnus and Alec were absolutely precious during this. I enjoyed the fact that we got to see more of them and their lives together and their kind of devotion to one another. as well as Clary and Jason, how they still remain this kind of playful banter, but at the same time they're still very devoted, they're still very much in love with one another, and I loved seeing that so much. And then Jules and Emma, who are kind of the pivotal couple in this book. You can tell that they're very devoted to one another, seems to be the theme of this book. Devoted. And loyal, but they're stuck at a standstill where they're trying to figure out how to make this work with their parabatai bond, seeing as how they are literally connected, but they cannot be together romantically because there's a big bad curse on the parabatai that would end up destroying everything. And you can see them trying to figure out how to do this. They wanted banishment, stripped off their marks. Jules cuts off his emotions at some point, which I don't agree with, but I understand why he did so, as well as end up destroying the actual parabatai rune in the actual book, which would have destroyed every other parabatai in existence. Now, as for things I didn't like, there were a couple. One of them is that Annabelle. Annabelle was built up as this big baddie throughout the entire of the series, and we were going to have to battle her in this entire thing, and she dies pretty freaking quickly. Like, not super quickly, but she wasn't even, probably not, like, about halfway through the book, she's dead. And we see, like, a demon take her form, and that was kind of it. And it was very annoying, because she's literally on the cover, and takes up, like, half the page time. Whereas I don't think Sebastian was even on any of these covers. And he is somehow magically in 4 books. So it was just kind of frustrating not to have her be like this built up baddie and then have her kind of fall flat. Another thing I did not like was Thule, which was the interdimension, or the other dimension, other reality, that Emma and Jules kind of accidentally stumble into. And that is the fact that it wasn't really built up in the books, I don't believe. It's been a while since I read the first one, but from the second one, all I can remember is that Clary mentioned she saw herself dead in a dream, and that's why she turned down Jason's proposal. And I feel like it wasn't that really great, because it wasn't built up. We just kind of get thrown into it, and all of a sudden it was just there, and I felt like it was a cop-out to explain kind of Ash's situation and age him up quite a bit, because Ash is Sebastian's son, as well as explain a world where we play into that what if of what happens if Emma or if Clary never defeated Sebastian, what would have happened then. And I felt, as well as kind of explain add more to the parabatai bond and explain Diana's gender identity, which is she's transgender, as well as the sickness that was going on with the warlocks. I feel like it was a bit of a cop-out for that, and I would have liked this world, like, I enjoyed the idea of Thule. I like other dimensions and alternate realities. I just would have preferred it to have been built up more than just a simple dream, because we see that I don't know, I can't even bring words to it because it's just so, I didn't feel like it was there. And maybe if I go through and reread the first 2 books, I will see that, but I didn't feel like it was really there for me to sit down and really enjoy this other dimension, because I couldn't remember at a point where this other dimension had been mentioned or other reality had been mentioned. The other thing, and the last thing that I did not like, was the change for the parabatai bond. Well, actually, this entire time, this bond for falling in love had been built up as this terrible curse that ends up them going mad. Their runes get stronger, everything gets stronger, and it's just not controllable. But we end up learning that the parabatai bond, via Emma and Jules, ends up triggering this thing where they become celestial beings, and the parabatai bond is a way for the celestial beings to come into the parabatai while the other one anchors them. And if you fall in love, there is no anchor. So in order to keep that a secret, keep it under wraps, they destroyed all the records of it and kind of wrote it off as a curse. Now, I would have really, really liked for this book to have used the fact that there's this illness going on, there is Annabelle, and maybe the only way to have gotten rid of the illness or something was to I don't know how you would have spun this, but was to get rid of the parabatai bond, to sacrifice that as a way, because I feel like that would have been more meaningful as a way for Emma and Jules to be together, because this was sacrificed, and it made more sense to me rather than their bond being burned away, or at least for Emma and Jules. So I wasn't a fan of that. I felt like, again, it was an easy way to keep Simon and Clary and Jace and Alec together as parabatai, and then destroy kind of the bond between Emma and Jules. And I would have much rather it had been a sacrifice for them to have gotten rid of the parabatai bond. Like maybe the bond was poisonous and started out this illness or something, and the only way to get rid of the illness was to get rid of the bond itself. Would have been nice, but it didn't happen. My rating for this book was a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I ended up giving this a higher rating than I think that I would have normally had I not loved the prose and the characters so much. This, because considering there were like 3 major plot points that I think could have needed more development and some more page time in terms of like the overall series rather than just this one book. I definitely do recommend the series. Again, Cassie Clare's writing is phenomenal, and I will continue to pick up the rest of her books no matter what happens. So I think that I would highly recommend to pick, if you guys haven't picked up The Dark Artifices, to do so. I don't think you necessarily, well, I think for this one, typically I'd say you don't have to pick up The Moral Instruments or The Infernal Devices beforehand to read either or, but in terms of The Dark Artifices, there are a lot of references throughout the series about the things that happened in the first set of series, which is The Moral Instruments, so definitely pick that up if you haven't before, and then you can go ahead and pick up Queen of Air and Darkness once you finish up Lord of Shadows and Lady Midnight. But that is it for my tea talk on Queen of Air and Darkness. Again, sorry this comes out late. I think I might just change my uploading schedule to twice a week instead of every Tuesday and Wednesday, just to give me some relaxation in terms of having to refilm certain things, and hopefully this does not become a continual issue come the new year. But if you guys want to see more tea talks, I do have an entire playlist of them, so feel free to peruse my channel. But subscribe. I do try to upload twice a week like I said before. Hopefully nothing happens and I can actually continue on with that schedule. But all my social media links, if you want to know why I didn't upload a video or keep up with me in terms of the books I'm reading or my thoughts of a book, all of the social media links will be down below. Like if you like these videos, again I have a ton of them, and subscribe. I actually do like to hear about your thoughts. So if you guys have read this book and have similar thoughts on me, please go down below in the comments, but please be careful of spoilers for anyone who hasn't read the book and decides to scroll through the comments. So until then, I'll talk to you guys sometime this week, probably on Wednesday, until I figure out a better schedule for myself. But until then, comments and social media. Bye!